And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Power of Integrity podcast. We're delighted to have Scott Hart on with us from 3L Partners. Scott's going to tell us about himself, his journey, his organization in IT. He's got a heck of a pedigree and a background. He's an SC grad. For those who've gone to SC, many of our audience have graduated SC, right? Go SC. Die for SC, right? Bleed it all day
I don't,
long.
I don't know about that, but yeah, fight on.
Fight on, fight on. So, Scott, tell our audience a little bit about your journey professionally and personally. It's led you to where you are today, about 3L Partners, and so that they can get a framework for where you're coming from and where you're going.
Yeah, so I started out of college, got my first job with Hughes Aircraft Company. Was in sales and marketing with them, sold manufacturing robotics for them for hybrid electronics. And in the early 80s, it just turned on fire. It was super fun. Then got into fire and control, and then took over half of the globe in sales for Hughes Aircraft Company for fire and control, and continued on a little bit with the robotics. But when I first started out with the company in 1981, believe it or not, um, they had bought a new computer, which nobody had back then. And they told me, college boy, go figure it out. Go figure out how to use this thing. And so for a couple hours each day, I got to fiddle around with it, talk to some of the IT guys that are all mainframe guys, and they're like, leave us alone. Those are toys. That'll never happen. And so I became interested in it. I learned how to leverage multi-plan, which then became Excel much later, many steps later, but learned how spreadsheets worked and learned how I could leverage reporting and stuff like that. So I had a step up over everybody in the computing age early on. And so the hobby continued. In 95, I made the decision to bail. And then I started 3L Partners and got in with Cox Business as the first agent with them before they really even had an agent program. And it was
Wow.
just small scale stuff, 5 user here, 10 user. And then that turned in, I got a couple of good breaks, got into the medical device business. And then those guys built companies that turned into 100, 200 user networks and sold. And then they left and started new companies. And so pretty much in the vertical um, medical device space now, and have a few other type of organizations, but for the most part, about 70% plus is all medical device. And so what we do is we go in, we build the network or take over the network. And if it's a mess, then we clean it up and put it under our umbrella. Once complete, then we manage those networks. We manage the tenant and 365, the cybersecurity, and pretty much take care of it from there forward, including all hardware purchasing. So the client doesn't have to deal with configuration. They don't know about it anyway. We just tell them, this is what you need. This is the security you need. This is the firewall you need. We start with the correct type of product for their business type and growth. So they're not spending a whole bunch of money, but they're not spending stupid money. So we walk
Yes.
them down the road, keep it smart. I always tell them, let's start with IKEA and go into Mahogany Row and pretty much follow that model. And whether it's a 5 user network or a 200 user network, we follow the same protocol. So been doing it, still love it. I'm 65 years old now. Believe it, I don't even know how that happened. I got a Medicare card this year. Still can't believe I have that. And here we are. And still loving it. I enjoy getting up and doing what I do. So, and then I stumbled onto Ralph so he could help me steer the financial ship in the right direction.
Interesting. So tell me, like, I was on the East Coast in 1981. I hadn't even started my into this profession yet. It was 1985, 4 years later. So I'm a little vague. Howard Hughes started, right? Hughes, or I got the wrong connection?
So, what was the question again?
Howard Hughes right?
Yeah,
The fellow who ultimately was a recluse. He's founded the company you were working for, correct?
that's right.
Was he still involved, or did it get sold off at the time? Or
He was still involved in 81, but at that point, he was kind of a mess.
so you didn't see him on premise?
Never,
Okay.
never would have seen him. There's no way. I did, believe it or not, our neighbor worked for Global Marine, and he did have interactions with him, but never toe to toe. It was always in a different room via camera. So
Interesting.
he was involved in some really top secret stuff with Howard Hughes, and Global Marine, as you know, is a huge company.
Yes.
And all the stuff he did is unclassified now, but he was doing some pretty crazy stuff. Like he would walk into buildings, with a backpack with rope so he could get out if he had to, that kind of stuff, because he was doing some pretty pretty wild things. But yeah, he did run it. I never saw him. I had no need. I was a small fly, because I'm selling manufacturing robotics, and
Yes.
I'm working with like General Dynamics and companies like that, Santa Barbara Research Center, helping them automate hybrid microelectronics, which you know what that is. You've got a single chip on a substrate with wires going out, and then that gets encapsulated and dropped in. A hybrid is maybe 150 active devices on a substrate, all wired together. It looks like a city with a bunch of loop wires on it, and then gets encapsulated. So one hybrid will do the same as 200 chips on a board in one device. So that was that. And then the fire control stuff was, in tanks lining up, you know, and and doing that. So that was fire control stuff. So the computer stuff's a lot better. I like it a lot more because working with the government's 5 years sometimes to close a deal. I can close a deal in 30 minutes.
Yes, yes, yeah. Doing business in the for-profit world is a lot easier than having to do it in government contracts, and
Oh
that
my gosh,
works.
it was terrible.
Yeah, yeah. I was just so curious, and I'm sure our audience would use if there was any interactions or you got to witness any of the idiosyncrasies, second or even third hand, as they flowed down through the organization. If he was involved still, then.
Yeah, we heard a lot about it. And then I would hear stuff from my dad, whose best buddy was the neighbor with Global Marine, and so we'd hear all this really cool stuff that was going on, and how he would, kind of hide from public, how he would never go in a building and come out the same door, and it's just all this wild, cool stuff when you're a kid going, yeah, that's pretty cool. So,
Well, turning our attention for the reason we're here is to talk about integrity and how it's played a role. So I'm curious if you could share about when integrity played one of those roles that you reflect on and say, geez, man, I'm glad I chose that path, and how it impacted the outcome. Anything that comes to mind for you?
well, first of all, a good friend of mine, Bill Tutton, told me about you, and he's a guy I've known for a long, long time. And the way that my finance team is working now is, they're doing a pretty good job, but I've been with the same guys for a long, long time, and they're getting older, and I think they're becoming a little complacent. They made a couple of mistakes, and so I thought, maybe I should look around, talk to Bill, who turned me on to you guys. And I think the benefit of integrity, the integrity group, over what I'm doing is it's more of an umbrella of, instead of just the finance side, we've got legal, we've got tax, we've got more than just, yeah, we'll take over your Schwab account or your E-Trade account or whatever and manage that. So that made a lot of sense to me because, as I move down the road here, and will sell my company down the road in a few years, what's the best way to do that? And so that sounds like a good benefit for me and 3L.
Yeah, and when you think about it beyond the working relationship that's budding between us, when you think about integrity, the principle in your life, and you've come across both those that apply it and keep to their word versus those who don't always, and on the opposite side, and we'll talk to that in a minute. Can you remember a time where the principle of integrity impacted the outcome in a positive way that you can say, geez, I'm glad we walked our walk there and we didn't compromise?
I mean, integrity,
The
just,
principle itself,
oh, the
the
principle.
platform, yes, and where you applied it and how you kept to your word, and
Oh,
you refused to relent or bend on something that, and then you realize, geez, I'm glad I did that, and this is how it out. Our audience is interested in hearing your
sure.
life experience around that.
Yeah, I mean, on the business side, integrity is everything because if you have no integrity, you frankly aren't going to have any clients, or if you do, they're not going to be with you very long. And so it's like I had mentioned earlier, let's start with IKEA and move to Mahogany Row. It's like you got a small startup group of guys, and it's important that you support that business, but I'm the guy that I'm never going to upsell anything. I'm going to make you my friend first just to get a trust. And then if you have that trust, I'm going to walk you down the road that aligns with your business. It's the day that you're overselling or it's all about profit, it's all about how much money you're going to make. It's just those that's just never going to work in my space. So it's always been number one in my business to take care of my customers. I'm always looking out for them. I'm finding things and saying, hey, you need to do this. You need to spend money here, or you're spending too much money here. And we've got to get you out of what you're doing right now and get you into something else that's better, it's more efficient, and it costs less. So, yeah, integrity is everything of any business owner, in my opinion.
Yes, you hit on, folks wouldn't normally think of it as a synonym or part of the definition for integrity, but you used the word alignment and how valid that is. If there's things are not in alignment, they're not integral, they're not integrated, and they're certainly lacking integrity, absent alignment. And that's really a key issue I heard you say.
Yeah, I agree. I've just always been, walked down that road. It's probably the most important part of, my entire career. I've been that way. Even when I worked with Hughes, I'd walk in and, back in 1981, you're selling a box. It's 120,000, probably like 300,000 today. And you're walking in and jaws are dropping because of the efficiency. It was probably one of the easiest sells ever because you would something that somebody would build by hand that would take 3, 4 days, this machine would knock it out in 9 minutes and do a
My
better job. So, but again, you go in to sell a product that, bring it back to the alignment world again, how do you align the right tool set for that client? And that's super important. And we do it the same way over and over. It's like a process. It's like a McDonald's franchise. I do it the same way. Our team does it the same way. I've had on the integrity side, all of my subs have been with me for over 15 years, some of them 20. And they have to be in the same alignment as I am and what I do. If they walk in and they screw up, I get it. People make mistakes, but how they fix it and how they deal with that fix is super important. If they keep screwing up, they're done,
Yeah.
But most of these guys, they've made mistakes and they're just on it and they fix it. And that's how it works.
Yeah, when you go off course, how do you course correct? And how quickly do you course correct and take accountability for it, which I think is a strong aspect of integrity is being accountable, right? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. When you think about it, and of course, now most of the folks that work with you are subcontractors, not employees, but how does integrity using the principle of integrity with your leadership style impact the performance of those subs and how it pervades the organization overall? What would you say the role is of integrity when you think about your leadership and the performance around you?
I every one of my team members, um, they know how I work. And in the beginning, the way I open with every one of them, if I'm bringing on a new sub for the first time, I just tell them, I go, look, I go, you guys are going to go in and you're going to do a project for me. And this is what you're going to do. This is what we agreed to. And then if you go in and you do great, I'm going to give you another one. And then if you still do great, I'm going to give you another one. Any one of those three, if you make a mistake, that's still okay. I just want to see how you're going to fix it. And then after the three, I'm pretty much locked in with that team forever because I don't want to go out and shop stuff. I just tell them, I don't want you to ever steal from me. I want you to be honest with me. I want you to be honest with the client. And as long as you do all that, I just keep sending you business over and over again. And that's the way I've done it. And the model works.
Yes. Yeah, that two way relationship of doing what you say you're going to do and being honest and transparent. I always try to emphasize to our audience about the long ball, playing the long ball. Sometimes you think, geez, it's a lot easier to shortcut this, but when you play it right and you do it right, I don't know, how do you experience it in business? Does it come back to you
It
and
does
reward you?
because I would say of all of the clients I've had since 1995, I've had one leave and I've fired three because there was no alignment with that client. And I got smarter as I went along because I would get called in on these projects or new clients that were leads from Cox. And I told Cox, I will never turn down a lead from you, no matter what size it is. If you send me a lead to support you, I'll go in. If it's not something for me, I'll find somebody else to do it for you. So they could just push that off on me. And so we had that alignment. But as far as going down the road, how would it come back? Every one of these customers that I have, a lot of them I've had for over 10 years. And a lot of VC companies have come back to me over and over again because they're starting up all these new companies. They keep coming back. They keep coming back because I treat them fairly and they treat me fairly. And
Yeah,
that's just as important to me. I don't want to go into a company where everybody's pissed off and I'm uncomfortable and worried and you're looking around, everybody's like this, and it's like, no, I want to walk in, it's like, hey Scott, what's happening, what are you doing for lunch? That's the kind of client that I want, where we're friends first and business is just part of what we do. And there's that trust that's been there for all these years and will continue to be that way. But I would walk in to a new client and then I would walk out and I would spend a day writing up a proposal. I don't do that anymore. I just walk in, I do an assessment of the environment. I kind of look at what they have and I go, it's going to cost you about this much money to get this straightened out, to get it into our wheelhouse so we can manage it. And some of them will go, oh my gosh, that's just too much. I go, no problem. Others are, when can you start? Those are the guys we want. We don't want to deal with money issues right out of the gate. We want to go out of the gate right, and down the road as new product or new security or whatever it is that needs to be changed. And we go to them and say, it's going to cost this much money to make this right. They go, just do it. They all say, just do it.
yeah.
Nobody ever has questioned what we tell them to do. That's the kind of customer we like.
Yeah, you've earned that through delivering it year after year, the right results, and them not having compromised environments, right? And always up and running.
That's right. Six Sigma, kind of
Yeah,
like fight
absolutely.
on.
Right on. Yeah, fight on.
It's important. I mean, these guys rely on us, and if we screw up, what does it do? It costs them money. And people don't like to lose money, and nobody does. So they
No.
pay us to do that job, and we agree to do it, and we do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And 3L Partners been doing it for quite some time, since 1995. So you're going on 30 years now.
Well, we started, if you think about it, actually, I started ScottCom before that. ScottCom.com. I'd walk in the door and people go, ScottCom's here. They wouldn't even call me Scott, you know. So I started that even before I bailed out of Hughes, kind of as just a side hustle, to learn
Yeah.
how to do it.
Wow. Wow. Well, tell me something before, I've got a couple other questions out on my mind. I always like to ask for our audience, like, tell us a time when you ran into someone who lacked integrity, or into an incident or event where integrity was lacking, and what that outcome was.
So I got a lead from not too many of them, but I got a lead early on. This probably in I'm 4 years in and taking just about anything in the beginning. And one of the guys in our group handed me it was a mortgage company. I went in there and it was a train wreck. And I went in and said, okay, you got to do all this stuff. And they said, great, go for it, do it. So I did all of the stuff to clean them up. I got everything working perfectly, invoicing, and I'm not getting a response to the invoices. They paid the first one, and then there's like 5 more and they haven't paid. And so I walk into the place and I go, what's the problem? Why aren't you guys paying me? I go, I've done everything you've asked me to do. It's working perfectly. Do you have any problem here at all? They go, no. I go, well, why aren't you paying? They go, oh, well, I'm really sorry. We'll get you paid right away. Great. Okay. Have a nice day. Goodbye. Nothing. So then about 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. Hey, Scott, what's the admin password of our domain controller? I go, why do you ask? They go, well, we're making some changes. I go, okay, well, you know, when you pay me, I'll give you the password. And they go, how dare you hold us hostage? I go, plain and simple. I go, you guys pay your bill and I'll give you the password. Goodbye. And so then I call my attorney who is a client, and this guy's like a triple A plus personality. I go, Chris, here's the deal. I go, what should I do? He goes, call him back and tell him the password is pay your effing bill. That's the password. He goes, if you need help, you call me. I'm with you. I go, okay. And they eventually paid the bill. They got on a phone call with us, and I just said, and I knew one of the guys that worked there. And he said, Scott, just give us a password. I go, as soon as you pay, he goes, how about if I promise you I will send a check out right now? And if I send you the check, will you give me the password? I go, take a picture, send me an email, said you're paying in full. You've agreed to pay in full. Send me that email and I'll give you the password. And we did, and I got the check and everything was fine. So integrity on their end, in the toilet. And
Man.
one of the ones that type of client, we would never want to have anything to do with it. We had a similar situation. It wasn't quite as drastic, but kind of similar on payment, where these people just, like I said before, you walk in and everybody's tense and uptight and they don't want to be there. They're there because they have to be. And I let those guys go.
Yeah.
There was no password issue there. I was just like, we're moving on to a different model. So, but for the
Yeah.
most part, you can vet in the beginning, kind of get the feel. I've been doing it long enough to the ones I've taken on now. I haven't let any of them go in over 10 years.
Yeah, having the right clients. In fact, we've developed the ideal client brochure. We know what a client should have and what they shouldn't have. Right? You don't want someone who mistreats your staff. You don't want someone who doesn't respect your advice. You don't want someone. So it's critical that you sort through and filter out for the wrong clients. So you don't put them on the bus. They become disruptive, as you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What would you in our the last before we hop off? What would you tell the young entrepreneurs like when you were starting out with Scottcom.com
Hmm.
and were doing that side hustle? And there are many folks who are creating their startups with their side hustle today, and some are launching into it, jumping right off the cliff with both feet and right into the water and hoping it all works out. What would you tell the young entrepreneurs that are thinking about whether it's the application of integrity or just anything? What should they be doing when they're thinking about starting up, and how you muscle through what some of those hours where I'm sure you questioned yourself?
Well, a lot of people, it's funny because they go, "Oh my gosh, you own your own business. God, that must be great. You can go do whatever you want." And if that's the reason that that person wants to become an entrepreneur, they should just dig both heels in and stop, because as soon as you start your own thing, it's going to be 10 times the work. You're going to be working until you're done. 8 to 5 doesn't exist. It's you work until you're done. Whatever it is you have to do to get started, because you have nothing. When I started, I had a wife, 2 kids, a mortgage, a car payment. I didn't have squat. When
Right.
I was doing fine with Hughes and saved up money to the point where I had 1 year where I'm not eating steak, but I can get by.
Yeah.
And so then I've got all this time because to go out and stir up business. And so what would I tell them? I'd say, first of all, if you can commit to the time to put into it, which will take a lot of time, and you can dedicate to focusing on that, great. Secondly, write down what it is you want to do. You can call it a business plan, you can call it a cocktail napkin, whatever it is, write it down. I want to do this. I want to be here in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. This is how I'm going to plan on getting there. This is my goal financially in each one of those quarters. So you have a game plan, and then reach out to your elders, reach out to people to say, hey, I'm thinking of starting this business and this is what I'm going to do. What do you think? And listen, especially the old guys who've been there and done this and failed and pulled up and been successful and figured it out. Tap into people to help you. Don't try to go down the road yourself. Jump online and read what people say. Do your homework. And once you've got your homework built and you've got a plan and you're a young buck, go for it. And then start saving money when you can. When I was 21, I started an E-Trade account because my neighbor was a finance, he was into it. And I think that is so important, if even if you can put in 2% when you start, get used to doing it, have a vehicle to do so, and work with folks that you respect that will help you in your first one. And if you go in and it doesn't work out and all hell breaks loose and you fail, don't give up. Come up with another one and do it. I always had that entrepreneurial thing, even though I worked, for several years for Hughes. I worked
Mm-hmm.
14 years for the
Yes.
man. First job was bagging groceries at Albertsons, or actually throwing newspapers for the Daily Pilot. So, but I always had that want where, I wanted to do my own thing, and fortunately, I got to do something that I really like to do. And I would throw that in there too. Make sure, focus on what the things are that you really enjoy, and try to craft a business around doing just that.
Yes. Yeah, and I would remind our audience an overnight success is 10 to 15 years. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
you were yeah.
You're not going to get rich quick.
No,
It
no,
just
no,
isn't going
no.
to
It's
happen. And it's like Tut. I go back to Tut all the time because I've known him for so long, and he started out, selling insurance for a guy and moved through it. And it took him a long time. And it's just you go through it a step at a time and you walk through the journey and you get the right team together and it can be a really good thing.
Yes. Yeah, and it's it's interesting. You were speaking about working for the man. You can have that entrepreneurial spirit. I think they used to refer to it as an entrepreneur, working within the confines and the atmospheric conditions of a corporation, but still be having that entrepreneurial spirit. But yeah, and it didn't die, and you launched it, and the reward is when we go, we get to work half days as business owners, and they don't care which half. You just gonna right. You're gonna put in 12 hours. It's just, and that's probably 7 days a week in the beginning. If that's how it
Yep.
was for me, I'm sure that's how it was for you.
I worked 80 hours a week for 5 years. Not always 80, of course, but pushing 80. And I loved it
Right.
because there was so much to do and I enjoyed it. It wasn't it sometimes, I would just tell the wife, I go, I'm over this. I go, I do not want to do this. I hate this. And then 2 days later, I'd be like, okay, everything's cool again. But you have the rough days, and they will come and they will go, and you just got to keep the focus, you know, going.
Right.
And
Yes. Yeah.
whatever helps you keep that going is.
There was a little booklet when I first started in my profession that was called The Common Denominator of Success. And in the financial advisory world, this was almost like the little Bible. And its precept, its takeaway was successful people do the things that failures don't want to do. Take your likes and your dislikes and throw them in the trash and get on with the activity of the day.
Yeah.
Right? You got to do the things that failures don't want to do. You got to face rejection in the face of it, and you got to keep going. When your eyebrows are being singed in the meeting, you got to stand there and take it.
Oh my gosh. I used to get just pounded when I worked for Hughes. And I would walk into a room and it was me and 14 people, and they're all pissed. And I just got to the point where it was like the Charlie Brown teacher, in the background, just wah, wah, wah. And then after they had all gone around the room, and then I go, anybody else? And they go, no, that's about it. And I go, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this, and we'll have it all taken care of. Any other questions? And if it's just you get thick skin to that kind of stuff, now it's so different because people don't complain anymore. It's more of, hey, we've got this problem and we've got to fix it. So it's more of, how can you help us get to the end of this? Like, a company will go into a Sarbanes-Oxley type audit, and they'll come in and they go, hey, we've got this laundry list of stuff we got to do. Can you help us? I go, yeah, we
Yeah,
can take items
would you
like
say
one
it's
through
kind of like
10 and
partnership, right? No longer is it adversarial.
right.
When you have the right clients, they're in partnership with you, and they see you as maybe you're an outsourced solution, but you're still a solution provider, and they want to collaborate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's a powerful way when it gets that way. Well, Scott, it was a wonderful time speaking with you, Scott Hart of three. Sorry, of 3L Partners. Scott, what if folks want to get in touch with you, touch with 3L Partners? How do they do that best? What's the best way for them to
the
reach you?
best way is just send me an email. Email address Scott at 3lpartners.net. And that's the number three. Um, and just send me what it is you're trying to do. And like I had said before, if it's something that doesn't align with what we do, I've got other guys in our group. We've got 6 guys in our group here in Orange County, and all really good. And then I also have a great sub team depending on what it is you want to do. I mean, if you came to me and said, hey, we've got a big enterprise Cisco stack and we need to check out cybersecurity, I've got one of the best Cisco command line guys in the business, and the guy's brilliant. And so I wouldn't come into that, but I would align you with that team and get you hooked up. So got a good group of guys, and there you have it.
Wonderful. Well, Scott Hart, 3L Partners, it was great speaking with you. Thanks for helping our audience think through some of the issues around integrity and business itself. You've been a genuine contributor today. We're really happy to have you. I thank you much. Let's be sure to stay in touch, and I'm sure we're going to. I'll see you real soon, my friend.
All right, Ralph, take care.
Take care now.
Sayonara.
The information presented in this program is provided for informational purposes only. The information is believed to be reliable, but no guarantee of accuracy is made or implied. Expressions of opinions are as of this date and are subject to change without notice. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult a legal or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. This information does not constitute a solicitation or an offer to buy or sell any security. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of capital. Ralph Adamo is registered with the securities and are offered through Kovac Securities, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC, 6451 North Federal Highway, Suite 1201, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33308. Telephone number 954-782-4771. Investment advisory services are offered through Kovac Advisors, Inc. Integrity Wealth Management is not affiliated with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc.